Hispanic research is being started and that we're supposed to be ambulance for reports of
77. That's the number of people killed in Portland this year, so far. It's the highest number ever and comes with more than 1,100 shootings. Then consider, beyond all the Portland crime that makes national headlines, there are the smaller, more common crimes that police should be dealing with that happen to people like Joel Morales.
There's a theft ring associated with all this.
Morales lives near this homeless camp off of I-5 in North Portland, and he's looking for this, his electric bike, his $3,500 bicycle that was stolen.
I still can't get Portland PD to help me out because they're under-resourced.
So you think somebody here may have stolen your bike?
Actually, I know so. Actually, some of the homeless people here have told me.
When Joel says Portland police are under-resourced, he's talking about the same thing our KOIN 6 investigation found. The number of cops in Portland is at a historically low level. In 1960, Portland had 654 police officers, and the city had 372,000 people. That's about 300,000 fewer residents than today. Over the last 60 years, as the population grew, so did the number of officers. In 2001, the Bureau staff peaked at 1,054 officers. After that, the population continued to climb, but the number of officers started to go down due to retirements and difficulty recruiting. Then add in budget cuts last year, the chaos of violent protests, and police leaving the Bureau for other jobs. As of Monday, Portland was down to 788 officers. The last time the city had that few was 1989, when the population of Portland was 235,000 less, and the city wasn't facing nearly as many public safety problems.
This is anarchy.
When we talked to other people near that homeless camp off I-5, their frustration came at us like words from a fire hose.
What do you think about the police department, how small it's gotten? And
I think it's despicable.
And I carry a Smith & Wesson baton that extends outward for a good, quick swing.
The city has decided what rules they will and will not impose anymore.
Now the city, Joanne Hardesty, has asked us to step up and enforce the laws ourselves.
so you think there need to be more police officers?
Yes, I do. They're supposed to protect and serve.
And I'm here, Joanne, I'm ready to defend the laws.
He's talking about Commissioner Joanne Hardesty and her stance on police.
The police have a role, but their role is simply to solve crime. Their role is not to prevent crime. Their role is not to intervene with other community activities. And a response to gun violence should not be a knee-jerk reaction. As you know, we intentionally cut very specific programs in Portland Police Bureau's budget during the last budget process because those programs had racially disparate outcomes.
It's no secret she's been the loudest voice for cutting the police force and favors moving money to social services to prevent crime and non-police crisis workers to defuse situations before they become violent. She's also denied that many of the shootings in the city are by gangs. But in late October, she told us she reached out to the police chief about seeing his rehire plan.
I'm open. I think if we're going to rehire former officers, we have to have some criteria. That we don't bring back officers who were part of the 6,000 use of force complaints from last year. That we don't bring back officers who retired in lieu of being investigated. I think we have to work on transforming a very dysfunctional bureau. And that's going to take a little while, right? We didn't create a dysfunctional bureau overnight, and it's not going to be fixed overnight.
We took a look at how the Portland Police's current 788-member force compares to similar-sized cities. Washington, D.C. has 3,578, which is 5 officers per 1,000 people. Boston, over 2,000. That's 3 officers per 1,000 people. Milwaukee is over 1,600 officers, and the ratio is 2.8. El Paso Police, over 1,100, or 1.7 officers per 1,000. Seattle, which has had half as many homicides this year as Portland, has 1,124 officers, or 1.45 officers per 1,000. And that is after experiencing its own exodus of officers. Portland's 788 police means the Rose City has 1.2 officers per 1,000 people. The national average last year was 2.4.
If we continue at this rate, a year from now, we could be down to 600 police officers. I have no idea how the city of Portland functions with a police bureau that small.
City Commissioner Mingus Mapps hopes to incentivize 25 officers thinking about retiring to stay and hiring 300 new police officers, which is similar to what the mayor wants.
This is the deadliest era in modern times for our city.
Last week, Ted Wheeler announced he wants to hire 200 officers and 100 unarmed community safety specialists. Wheeler also said he wants $25,000 signing bonuses and incentives for officers to stay on. KOIN 6 obtained exit interviews from Portland officers who were quitting the force. Several point to Multnomah County District Attorney Mike Schmidt as a reason. One wrote, "There is little accountability for criminal behavior from the DA's office." Another wrote, "As long as the other branches of the criminal justice system, district attorney and jail, refuse to hold up their obligations, police officers will continue to be ineffective at making any lasting change." Another said she'd be enticed to stay with PPB if there was a DA who prosecutes crimes and prosecutes without bias.
I think we have to have that conversation of what is the right tool for the job. And, maybe sometimes that's not a police officer.
Schmidt told us he won't suggest to City Council or the Police Bureau how many officers it needs. He does say there should be alternatives when dealing with people in mental crisis and addiction to sending police officers.
I think they're in a really tough spot. I think it's a challenging moment because I don't control the police. They don't work for me. I don't have any kind of oversight into them. My job is to look at the law and apply it to conduct. And so that's what I do in every single case, whether that's a police officer who potentially has broken the law or whether that's a person. And that's the standard that I have to hold myself to.
In recent polling by the group People for Portland, 66% said Portland needs more officers. 17% said the city has the right amount. And 8% said there should be fewer.
It's going to be a Band-Aid.
Imani Muhammad, who works with kids trying to break this cycle of violence, cautions police aren't the long-term answer.
City officials, everybody, you have to reallocate your funds in a way that may have not looked like it's looked in 50 years. You have to consider we may have to do something that's different. We may have to fund the smaller nonprofit we've never even heard of, right? Because they have the recipe or the formula to make the change.
But the Portland Police Union argues more officers is essential, that the size of the force should be doubled in the next 5 years, adding 840 more officers to deal with everything in a city that residents know is so far from working like it used to.
You're one of many.
I just make do with what I do, and I just kind of laugh about it now because you really can't. Why am I going to cry about it? So just laugh about it.